Good evening, and you're very welcome to yet another episode of the League of Ireland Women's podcast here on finalwhistle.ie. Aaron, another week over. We know the four finalists, semi-finalists in the Avenir Sports Cup. The table is beginning to take a little bit of shape as we hit that halfway point for most of the teams in the league last weekend. It's an interesting time ahead to see maybe how we pan out over the next couple of weeks as the season begins to hot up towards the crunch time. Your week, how did it go for you?
Yeah, it hasn't been bad. Unfortunately, didn't get to go to a game on Saturday. I was occupied by a different sport, watching my team lose. So been catching up on the weekend's games. It's an exciting time to see Athlone notch up a 7th league win in a row. As you say, All Ireland Cup semi-finalists now confirmed. The transfer window's open. We're seeing a hive of activity already so early into the window, and yeah, it's good. It's exciting. Ireland squad's announced. The Under-19 squad's announced. It's all guns ahead now to what's going to be a busy few weeks.
Accreditations issued for the games coming up in Norwich and in Cork, of course, over the next few weeks. We're going to be chatting to Treaty United CEO Ciara McCormack in just a couple of moments. They've got big news announced today, some big signings. Lee J. Lynch returns home, and that's the men's side of the house. But another big signing for them. We'll hear all about it from Ciara McCormack for the women's side, with maybe a few more to come. She'll tell us all about what's going on down in the Markets Field over the next few weeks. Aaron, just looking back at the weekend, some big results, particularly that win for Athlone in Shamrock Rovers at the weekend. Could that be a big statement for where Athlone see the title race going?
It's definitely a big win. Shamrock Rovers had a good bit of form. You look at the fact that Athlone had lost the Shells the week previous in the All Ireland Cup, albeit they made a couple of changes. It was still quite a close game. They go out and probably, it's fair to say, a 2-1 win doesn't necessarily reflect some of the chances that they had. They probably should have been a lot further ahead in the first half in particular. So it's a really, really good win for Athlone. As I say, seven league wins on the bounce. Them and Shells are just going stride for stride. It's knocking lumps out of each other, and it's making exciting. It's making me eat my words as well, actually, because I said this will be the lowest points per game winning league season. But now these two are just deciding they want to have a bit of fun. Galway, albeit 6 points behind with a game in hand, there's still all to play for. There's still so much to play for in these next couple of weeks. And as we look at this weekend's league fixtures, some big games again, and it's all exciting at this stage.
Yeah, and of course, no more than that, the visit of Shamrock Rovers to Treaty United being one of the big games this weekend. And we're joined by the CEO of the home side on that occasion. Ciara McCormack joins us. Welcome back to the show, Ciara. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to share with the listeners what you were doing for the evening? You, the former Irish international yourself.
I jumped in with our under-17s and trained, and that's why my hair is looking so good right now, because I didn't have a chance to do anything with it after practice.
You must be one of the very few CEOs who actually can get out and mix it with the youngsters. So fair play to you on that side of things. Yeah, I suppose we talked to you at the tail end of last season when you just came into the role and the investment and the takeover of Treaty United. I suppose really what's been going on, we've seen the results, but behind the scenes, how has that all been going? You happy with how things have gone for the last 8 or 9 months?
We've worked so hard. That's I've never, it's just been like 12, 13, 14-hour days, like week after week after week after week. So yeah, it's been all encompassing on all sides of it, really. And I think we've just really focused the last few months on just laying a really strong foundation, just to be a really competitive club in all facets moving forward. And so that's basically, it's just been laying a lot of groundwork and putting in a lot of, hours in just trying to get everything set in good foundation so that we can really start to thrive moving forward.
Expectations versus reality. What's it been like when you look back at that 8 months? Because there's no doubt you would have had some expectations as to what it's going to be like compared to what it's actually been like for you.
What's funny is it's been such a whirlwind that I don't think I haven't had a chance to have, 10 seconds of brain space to be able to even have expectations. So, it's been more of paddle for your life type of, vibe, as opposed to the, what do I think it's going to be like? But no, I mean, I knew it would be a lot of work. It's a huge challenge. It's a dream gig in terms of trying to, just again, take everything as a player. And obviously, like, I'm so close to the field as a player. And so I think coming at it from that lens has been really exciting and really fun. And and we're obviously new at this, making mistakes and trying to learn as quickly as we can. And so I mean, I think the expectation I did have was that it was going to be a lot of work, and it definitely has been, but it's been a lot of fun too. So.
Of course, on the women's side, big investment from the club in terms of bringing in Dominic Foley as the full-time manager. We had Dominic on the show earlier in the season. He seems to love the role. The team seems to be a lot more competitive than we've seen maybe over the last 4 or 5 years in Treaty. So defensively, at least, we'll talk about that a bit more detail later on. I know Aaron wants to go through some stats with you, but it seems like a much more solid outfit, much harder to beat, much more competitive in nearly every single game this season. You've got to be happy with what's happening on the field. Maybe if you're not quite in where you want to be on the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think we made a conscious decision that we were going to put a serious investment into the women's side. Just probably maybe in comparison to other clubs in terms of the ratio of men's to women's. And so yeah, we did make that decision, and I think it's a testament to how good the league is and how many, I think there's some fantastic coaches in the league, and obviously, we have brought in a lot of players, and we are probably not where we want to be in the table. But again, like I said, it's a testament to how, just the great work that all the other clubs are doing, and everyone's, the whole thing is rising and getting better and better. And so, and Dom's done an amazing job with the team, and the girls, they all love playing for him. So yeah, there's tons of positives going on for sure.
You've said on social media, start of the season, you'd offered a lot of local players an opportunity to come play for Treaty, and a lot of them didn't take it. Do you think what you have done in this period of time is starting to break them barriers down?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of was one of those things, I think, when we first, just with everything, whether it was like, sponsors or just everything around the club, we were different. And even in a place like Limerick that, taking even further back than just Treaty, like, has quite a tumultuous history. So it was kind of a hard thing to be trying to sell a bright future of Treaty when there was kind of a bit of a tumultuous past that we were working with. But so I mean, like, we did, it was genuine what I said, like, we did get shot down. Well, yeah, just basically like double digits worth of Irish players said no to us. And I think maybe we kind of expected it in a way as well, because obviously, the future that we sort of are dreaming up was a lot different to what the past looked like. And obviously, players, and I know it from being a player myself, like, you get burned, and also like a testament to all the great clubs in the league. Like, lots of players moved on and were at other, clubs and having a great time. So that's another challenge as well, to get players to leave environments that they're happy in. And to be honest, you almost don't want to pull them out of environments that they're happy in as well, So yeah, I mean, from that perspective, we did, make a choice to bring in a lot of players. And I think, like I said, we're probably not where we want to be for the table, but I think hopefully the league's noticing that, we are serious and we are putting investment into the women's side. And hopefully it's one of those things where it's like a piñata, and if you just smash it enough times, it's going to break open for us at some point, and we'll start to get some of the games going our way. So.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there, because I think a lot of people look at the teams, and you're not taking beatings like you were 2 years ago before you came along, before the kind of regime change down there. And it seems to be an awful lot easier for you to get results. You look, as I said, much harder to beat. You've only conceded 9 goals. Aaron was chatting off air with you beforehand. 9 goals in 9 games. It's a better record than anybody in the bottom half of the table, and probably close to some of the people in the top 3 or 4 as well. Where can you get to in the short term? Like, you've brought in one, you've announced one signing today. There's a couple more maybe on the way. How much can you tell us about that, and kind of what's the hope that will add to your season?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm competitive, and I feel like, we want the team to start winning, and so I think for us, like, we're just and obviously I'm very lucky in terms of the sort of pipeline and connections that I have not just in Canada, but in other places as well. And another, cool thing that's been happening too is that girls that have been on the team having a great experience are recommending it to girls that they know playing pro in other places that are looking for opportunities. And that's kind of linked us with a couple of really quality players that are going to be coming in. So that's a part of it as well. So yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, like I said, I think we're just hoping, we're very happy. Like, we're very happy with how things are, but like I said, we're competitive and we want to start, turning some of those, like losses into wins, and the defense has been great. So hopefully starting with Danielle coming in, it'll be great for us just to have a really, proven solid 9 and hopefully just something that everybody can build off of.
You've lost the last 4 league games, but they've been against Athlone, Shelburne, Wexford, and Peamount. But when you look at that and you think every one of them games you lost by a goal, every one of them games you were in them games where it was maybe a little bit of extra quality in 1 or 2 of the games. I know the goal against Shelburne is probably one that you'll want to look back on as being scrappy, that you could have got something. When you look at them and you see, okay, how far that team has come, how far do you think you are away from getting results against them sort of teams and getting them on a regular basis?
I mean, that's what we're aiming towards. And I think we've got, some serious talent coming up through the ranks as well in the club, which is really exciting. And, at this point, we're sort of in a position that we've had to go pretty almost, just very, very international compared with other clubs just to, and I think something that kind of hurt us as well, throughout the season is just like a lack of depth, because unfortunately, all the 19 to 24-year-olds that were, very good, serious players that were from Limerick or that played for Treaty all left and, are really high performers at other clubs now. So that's obviously like a huge swath of talent that we don't, have the benefit of. So, yeah, I mean, I think, I think it's like anything, if you keep, again, working hard and probably a little bit, there's probably some patience that needs to happen as well, because, these clubs that are doing well, they've been around for a long time. They have fantastic players. They know how to win. And obviously, I think maybe the benefit to having a lot of new players is that, nobody knows what the old treaty was, or, they play Shelburne or Athlone and they don't really care. And they don't, there's no sort of, there's no knowledge really of like who they are, how Treaty should feel playing these teams. So that's probably that type of mentality, I think, also helps the girls that have been around maybe in the past that have been, on the receiving end of the 7-8-0 scores. So yeah, I think all those things combined, like we're just trying to build a solid foundation and we want to be a top club in the future. And it is, going to take a lot of work of time. And I think we're willing to put it in, and that's where we want to be.
In terms, Ciara, if we look off the pitch for a minute, because it's not that often we get a chance to speak to someone in your kind of position within a club in the country. Obviously, it's great to see investment going into the women's game, whether that be in the dugout, on training facilities, or into players' pockets as well. A nice mix of the lot. And we had Phil Trill talking about how they've put it in mostly off the field to benefit the entire squad, rather than a handful of players getting the resources. From your point of view, how sustainable is what you're doing if you don't get a little bit of success and crowds coming in the door to help pay for all of this? Can you keep it going?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're being very fiscally smart, to be honest. Yes, of course, for sure, we're putting in an investment into the women's side, and it's not, you could look at it one way and think, okay, well, we're not getting big crowds, and even we're 9th in the table and that sort of thing. But I think we're about pushing the women's game forward, and we want to be leaders in that capacity, and obviously being from North America, just to see the explosion in the women's game there, as a player, having lots of friends making $5,000 playing in the NWSL 10 years ago, or, so I've seen firsthand the explosion. Like, I personally believe in it. And yeah, so I mean, I think for us, like, some clubs choose to, pile money on the men's side, and I guess that's we've sort of just made a choice of, we're investing in facilities, we're investing in infrastructure, we're investing in long-term sustainability within the club. And a part of that is, we are putting some money into the women's side that maybe other clubs might choose not to, or they might choose to put that into the men's side. But, we want the whole club to perform and succeed. And that's kind of the strategy that we're moving forward with. And it, it is a long-term sort of commitment, I guess you could say, to really trying to push the women's game forward.
just one follow up to that as well, Ciara, because without getting into specific numbers, but it's obviously not a 50-50 split, but where is the kind of split? Can you tell us?
I probably I probably get in trouble from our board if I gave exact figures tonight, but no, I can say quite confidently that I'm sure. I mean, again, it's a total guess, but I would guess that, in terms of the investment in the men's side and the investment in the women's side, like I'd say we're probably the closest percentage or whatever you want to call it. I would say that we are potentially, again, but we are also investing a lot of money in coaching and in infrastructure and all those sorts of things off the field as well. And what's, I think, really special about our club is that, like, we have people in the club like a Tommy Barrett, who's the senior men's coach. And, he's been around Limerick for a really long time. And he's the first person to say, like, let's put the money into infrastructure and long-term and the entire club and those sorts of things. And I think for us, obviously, we want to have a situation in a few years that we have a fully professional men's team and a fully professional women's team. But, we're building off of a long-term plan and structure. And I think we're just trying to be fiscally smart just across the board. And I think part of that is allowing us to maybe put money into the women's side that other clubs maybe prioritize different.
One thing that we see with a lot of clubs is facilities. They don't own their own facilities. They're renting facilities. They're renting stadiums. They're renting training grounds. What is the long-term plan for a treaty? Is it to have their own separate training grounds that you can call home?
Yeah, I think in the short term, we've been putting in a lot of time in the background, like things that we haven't announced yet, but that's been a real big focus for us, because again, you just see the amount of money that is just kind of wasted money, really, like and you also see how, again, when you don't own your own facilities, how, training and the cost, it's to train more costs more. Every time we step on a turf, AstroTurf pitch, we're paying €140. Like that, if you want to train more, obviously that's going to, be higher in the budget. So that is the kind of thing for us that we've really made a priority this year and going, really hard into. So yeah, I think for us in the long term, for sure, our own training facility is definitely a goal. And in the short term, we're pursuing options, just like win-win type of situations with groups around the city. That, again, we're hoping sort of benefits the club and allows us, again, to sort of lay good fiscal foundations for the future.
Just to follow up on that, I just want to ask a follow up on that, because you said about the old Limerick and, the way bridges were burned and stuff like that. How has that been when it comes to looking for things like potentially extra training facilities or extra things to help and support? How has that been, mending them fences or building new fences?
Yeah, I mean, I think the benefit for, me personally coming in here is obviously I hear stories of the past, but I don't know anybody. And as far as I'm the kind of person that, like, I take everybody at face value, and I'm not going to, have my, impressions of anybody sullied by things that I've heard through other people. So I think that's a benefit in a sense, where I've come in with like a really fresh head and so built relationships that maybe, weren't so great before, just because I don't really know anything about what went on before. But, I think for sure, like we're different to what's, what I've heard, maybe the way things were before. And I think, I do think that, again, not just with like the takeover of treaty, but within like the last 20 years of Limerick soccer, it's been like a very tumultuous up and down. And so, even when we've spoken to fans and stuff, it's kind of almost like, oh, you guys are like the fifth group that we've heard this spiel from, and so I feel it's like you're trying to just build trust. And I think that that's really been like kind of what, we know we're legit. We know that we're here for the long term. We know that we're, within a structure that's very solid and with investors that are super committed to the long term. So obviously we know all that, but I understand that the fans and people that have been in Limerick for a long time necessarily, like to them, we're just another group. So I think for us, it's again, like when bills come up, paying them immediately, building relationships. When we say we're going to do something, making sure that we do it, and just, again, I think it's this year's kind of a trust building exercise. And I think the longer time goes on and people see the things that are happening, like you do start to build that trust, hopefully. And then hopefully it doesn't really matter what happened in the past and everyone's excited for the future.
I have to ask you, because I do enjoy your social media posts at times. You have a very unique take on on life as a non-Irish person walking around the streets of Limerick. It's a great little insight. How much are you enjoying life in Limerick kind of full time now?
I absolutely love Limerick. Like I many times a day, I kind of just shake my head and laugh at like never in a million years would I think I'd be 44 living in Limerick. Like it just was not on my like life bingo card at all. But no, I think honestly, like I think it's most underrated like place. There's such an awesome vibe here. I love like the grittiness. I think again, as a North American, like the history, like I'm literally staring at a cathedral from like the 1200s, and just things like that. When you're a North American, I don't know. I just feel like Pollyanna sometimes walking around and just so happy and think everything's so great and feel so positive about it. But yeah, no, I love Limerick. The people are great, and it's a really, really great city, and they're a fun place to be trying to build something for sure.
I had to laugh. I saw some.
Pollyanna.
I saw somebody connected.
For those who aren't watching, this is an old American movie. That people wouldn't have got that reference, Ciara, I'd imagine.
Okay. Probably like half the things out of my mouth. I think, yeah, that actually, it happens a lot. One of the funny things is like turf in North America, we say turf for like AstroTurf, but turf here means grass. So I've had lots of conversations with people where there's like just a lot of confusion. So something I'm used to.
Seeing the likes of Amber Uliak and co sort of Limerick tops on, ingraining themselves. Is that something you're encouraging with the players you bring in to really ingrain themselves in Limerick and the things it has to offer?
Yeah, I think for sure. Absolutely. Like I know that from playing overseas for a long time that, the more you kind of feel a part of the community, the more enjoyable the experience is. So I laugh at like, seeing photos of the girls with like the local goats. And I know that there was the girls lived in a place called Cullen last year, and they made friends with the local farmers, and they were getting shown like live stream cows being born, or I don't know, just crazy stuff that as a North American, I don't know, there was times they were telling me things, and I told them that they should start some kind of a reality TV show because it was really entertaining stuff. But yeah, no, for sure. And the Irish girls on the team as well, like they're amazing and super welcoming. And I know some of the girls were down to Fianna Bradley's house in Kerry a few weeks ago. So it's really nice too to see like the local, just the local girls too opening their houses and, to the girls that are here from out of town. And so, yeah, no, for sure. It's a big part of it.
Of course, one of the big attractions for you, for a team like Treaty is what you've got in the city. There's third level education. You've got a couple of options there in terms of UL. It's not LIT anymore. It's MTU, I think, or maybe TUS, is it? I can't remember. They change the name so often, it's hard to keep. But you've got like third level institutions, universities, third level colleges, and PLC courses for girls at different levels of education interest. Is that something the club is looking at, really generating those partnerships? Because we've seen it work really well in other places.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think also too, like there's obviously more leagues now starting up in North America, which is amazing. Again, as a player or former player, I think I'm going to think I'm a player till I'm about 80, but it's really great to see all the leagues starting up and all the opportunities. So obviously, again, even for us, like, those sorts of connections and programs and things are going to be really important for us. I think, again, if we want to be attracting international players, I think the fact that there are such fantastic third level, programs and stuff in the city, for sure, I think would be something we'll be starting to look at. Definitely, like at this point, it hasn't been something formally, but I know even some of the girls on the team are talking about maybe doing masters and stuff at UL and staying on. So, I mean, that's a big bonus for Limerick for sure.
You talked a little bit about the players sort of selling Treaty now. That must be nice that it's not all just Ciara McCormack having to sell the project, that the players are now starting to sell it for you as well.
Yeah, we have a really high level player coming in, and it's purely off of one of the girls that just told her, just kind of what we're trying to do, and so it was both really nice to have, literally, from a player that's on the team that's come over that's having such a good experience. she's actually, there's 2 players coming in the window that's directly off of one of them, just again hyping up Treaty and the experience that she's having. So yeah, no, for sure, it's great. It's great that the girls are talking, and that's kind of how it is in women's soccer. A lot of it is conversations, and I think again the fact that 2 women running a soccer club on the men's and women's side isn't a very common thing either, and I think people are a little bit intrigued by that as well, and I mean, I think just everything that we're trying to do here, I think it's something that I think some players are interested in coming and wanting to be a part of. So it's good to see for sure.
You talked about the close relationship yourself and Mary Curtin have in terms of working very closely together. Are you still chatting to each other? Are you still talking to each other? You haven't fallen out yet?
No, we're the perfect combo. Mary is the nicest person, and when I'm having a bad day, she is she's just the sweetest, nicest person. So we're a good combo, and we honestly, she's been amazing to work with, and again, she was a super hard worker as a player. She's a super hard worker as a COO. She's just a fantastic person, and we still are talking, but we'll check back in another few months and see how we're doing.
Well, listen, Ciara, you got something?
Yeah, I want to ask something just something that's been in the news the last couple of days. I don't know if you've read any of it, but we see a little bit of trouble in the Women's Super League Championship at the minute, with the likes of Blackburn cutting their training back to part-time, Reading leaving the league, other teams financially struggling. Is this an opportunity now for Ireland over the next year to 3 years, if they can get their house in order, that we can retain them players from going to the WSL Championship, for struggling with some clubs that are financially struggling, to having them, keeping them at home?
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, I've had conversations. I listened to a podcast with Kieran Kilduff a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about his frustrations as a coach, and in terms of sort of maybe things that the FAI could maybe do a little bit, like having home-based playing, like players having sessions and those sorts of things. And I think there's a lot of little things, and again, I know everyone's busy and there's a ton of things going on, but I think for sure there's a big opportunity. I think Ireland's a fantastic place for people to live and to play, and I think in every kind of opportunity or every negative, there's an opportunity. And so I mean, and I think like I said, for me, in terms of being somebody lucky enough to be involved running a club, I also want to be a part of pushing the women's league in general, and I've had conversations with different clubs and people that are deeply involved in women's soccer around the country, about ways that we can, ourselves kind of come together and make things better. So absolutely. I think for sure there's an opportunity. And I think the most important thing that, what's going on maybe like in those situations you mentioned, is building a strong foundation. And because I think far too often when there's, financial trouble, the women's team's the first team that gets the axe, and I think, I think the league is doing a fantastic job in just, again, how they're marketing it. And like I said, there's always things that can be done better. And I think for us, running clubs, I think anyways that we can help to, again, make the league and our clubs places that players want to be a part of. I know there's a lot of talking and ideas and things behind the scenes that we're all doing. And I do think though that, and I know this from being a player, that like the big cherry to keep people at home is the hope of getting a look at from the national team coaches. So I mean, I don't know much about the history and stuff with the home-based players getting to get in front of the national team coaches, but I think that that's a fantastic way to build excitement for, the Irish girls, if they're making a choice between 2 similar environments, to want to choose to stay in Ireland if they know that it's going to be a better chance for them. And I think it's really, really great to see players like Julianne Russell and Eva Mangan and players like that have been performing in the league get opportunities with the national team, because I think those sorts of things, again, when players are making decisions where to go, I think those things really help players make the choice to stay. And obviously the more players we can have in the league that are high quality, the better it is for everybody. So
absolutely. Well, that sounds like a really good place to leave it. Ciara, thank you so much for breaking away from your under-17s to come and chat with us this evening. It's been a pleasure as always, and the best of luck for Rovers at the weekend, but also for the rest of the season. Thanks so much for dropping in.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Ciara McCormack there. Aaron, as always, a bucket of sense from Ciara there.
An interesting character as well. I've had one or two run-ins on social media when I've sort of mentioned about the Canadian players early in the season with her. But what she said, she talks a lot of sense. She talks a lot of, she talks as if she can see a lot of things. And I think what she said is right. It's important to build the foundations. I don't see the idea of clubs pumping big money into the women's section just for the sake of it, and then it all goes up in smoke. I prefer clubs to take their time. Granted, Treaty have had to probably invest a little bit more than they would have wanted this year just to be competitive. But like, we didn't even mention on it with her, but when she talked about being in ninth place, they're only 3 points. They're only 2 points behind Shamrock Rovers in sixth place. With that game in hand against Galway, they win that, they're potentially up. And it's just small little things like that. The fact that there's only the top teams in the league, Galway, Athlone, and Shells, who have conceded less goals than them. Like, we'd have dreamed of saying that a couple of years ago, Breifne. We'd have dreamed of saying that sort of thing.
We would have said each other were mad if you'd said that a couple of years ago. So
yeah,
big strides happening down there. Let's not just talk about Treaty today, though. There were a couple of other games at the weekend. Of course, Treaty did lose that Avenir Sports Cup game at the weekend. They're out of that competition. Again, a quarterfinal is a solid performance in that competition.
Absolutely, but I think from a Galway viewpoint, that was a really, really big win, considering they'd lost their last 2 games in the league before that and sort of gone from being the team that are on top of the league to having that little bit of a blip. And we sort of expected at some stage to happen. I think for Galway, it was an important win that they bounced back. Jenna Slattery with the goal from the penalty spot. But like, it just shows that even them sort of games, there's not a lot between them sides. Even like Galway will be a very good side in the second half of the season. But for the likes of Treaty, I think they can take confidence out of that, even though they didn't get anything out of that game.
Absolutely. I think they'll be a little bit disappointed as well. That's Jenna Slattery that got the winner, former Treaty United player, of course. It does leave Galway into the final 4 of that competition. Let's wrap that up before we move back to the league action for the weekend. It's looking like a fairly competitive final 4 in that, of course, no Northern Ireland representation. Is that a problem for the competition?
No. Not really, because I think the fact that we've seen an Northern Irish team get to the final last year. We've seen, granted, Linfield got to it. If the first 2 games had been a little bit later, I think we might have had another Northern Irish team into it. There is a bit of talk as well now that Lisburn have, I don't know if they've officially done that, they're out of the women's league as well. So there's a bit of trouble with the Northern Irish League at the minute. And I think making one team in the quarterfinal it's a decent enough reflection for when the competition started, because they were on the back foot with the fact of they were still in pre-season. They were only playing some League Cup games at that stage, and like, Wexford went up there and got the good win. But I think the semi-finals are it's a very, very intriguing pair of semi-finals. Galway probably have the easier of the semi-finals as defending champions with the game against Wexford. Granted, they have to travel to Wexford They have to travel to Wexford and Shells host and Shamrock Rovers. What an encounter. The only thing I will say is these games are scheduled for during the Ireland U19's European Championships. And as far as I know, they will go ahead. That was one of the things of this. As far as I know,
team. Seems a bit ridiculous to play with Galway having 7 players in the under-19 team.
Yeah, I get that, and I think it's definitely a massive hampering. But I think that was one of the things. I don't know if it's changed this year because we've seen even last year with the likes of the players in the home base Ireland squad in the build up to the World Cup. None of them really played in it. For me, I would like to see Galway have a full strength side to play that game against Wexford. But the other question you got to ask then is, where do you fit the game in if you postpone it? That's the other side of it, and it's one of them difficult things. And like, I was a little bit unsure whether league fixtures this weekend would even go ahead, with the fact that the European Championship starts, what is it, the 15th? I would have thought they would have been looking to get the league games this weekend off, but it looks as though they're all going to go ahead, and then the players are potentially going to travel early into next week.
Yeah, it's interesting times ahead to see. Oh, that's all such a mess when it happens that way. A couple of games, of course, in the league last week. We talked about the Galway Treaty game, but maybe let's get the worst one out of the way in terms of goals. Scoreless draw in Belfield, DLR and Bowes. Some really good saves from Bandana in particular. and maybe a couple of bad misses from a few players as well, but didn't really light up the world this game, did it?
The games between these two sides, and I sort of said it to you the other day, they never really tend to catch fire. There are always a lot of the games between these two sides just tend to be 0-0 draws, or tend to be, and like you feel it's difficult for the two teams, especially they're on the television as well. They're on TG Car. Like it's a bit of a difficult one because, like from a DLOA's viewpoint, is you don't want to go and try play expansive football against Boas just because you're on telly and then get cut apart, concede 4 or 5. Where for Boas, they've sort of struggled this year going forward. Defensively, at times they've been okay. Granted, they've shipped some goals in games, but attacking-wise, they haven't really looked as though they were going to cause an awful lot of threats. I am hearing some talks that Ken Kiernan has gone back into the Shelbourne vault and looked at some of the underage players again in this window, so he'll be looking to potentially add to his Boas squad. Obviously, DLR Waves this week have announced Rachel Doyle has come back in, having been with Boas previously, and Abby Brophy signed from Wexford. I think them two will add a bit to them. I think from a DLR point of view, the one thing they lacked that bit of squad depth and a bit of experience. And I think Rachel Doyle, she's played an awful lot in this league, will add an awful lot. Abby Brophy's played probably must be near 100 games in this league at this stage. She'll come in, she'll give a bit more experience to them. And I think the two players will definitely add an awful lot to DLR. And if Bows are continuing to go young, it's going to be a difficult second half of the season just to see them picking up many results.
Yeah, of course. I just did a quick head count there. 11 fixtures they've met each other since Bohemians came into the league, and 5 of them have been 0-0 and 3 more 1-0 wins. So it's been a fixture that's been just a dearth of goals. None really across the 3 or 4 seasons that we've been tracking the games. Anyway, other games at the weekend. Let's talk about Wexford Cork. Good home win for them, but maybe a little bit too easy, courtesy of a couple of mistakes in the Cork defence.
Yeah, I thought the first goal in particular, Della Doherty shouldn't be allowed to get that free. It's nearly like when we talked a couple of weeks ago about the goal that Pearl Slattery scored for Shelbourne against DLR Waves, where she was just that free, and Della's not going to miss a header from that close range. And the second goal, the ball's given away a couple of times, and then it's nearly as if Wexford have the chance to walk it into the net. Granted, the keeper probably thinks she'll say she should have held on to that, and then Rossi just taps in from close range. It's one of them goals that Danny Murphy would be extremely disappointed about, because if they keep that ball down the right hand side, it's easily cut out, and then they're not on the back foot. But for Wexford, good win, 4 league wins on the spin, plus the All Ireland Cup quarter final win against Linfield as well to add into that. It'll be 5 wins. I think they're building that little bit of momentum, but we do need to talk about what's happened this week. 5 players out the door, 4 young players. Emily Corbett obviously gone. We had heard that a couple of weeks ago that Corbett was gone, but the likes of Freya Mange probably surprises me a little bit. Jess Lawler has scored some goals to win them. I remember she scored the goal against Shelbourne to win the game at Talca Park, not last year, the year before. Young players who come through the squad, probably a little bit surprised to see some of them going.
Yeah, it's never a good look when you lose that many players in such a short space of time. And like you said, we were aware that Emily had left a couple of weeks back, but it's a challenge, and maybe it's just a sign of maybe Wexford just in a bit of bother at the moment.
The Freya Mange one is the one that probably surprises me the most, considering she scored on the halfway line against Linfield in the All Ireland Cup quarter final.
Yeah.
Then doesn't play last weekend, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's announced gone. Probably surprised me. That one probably surprised me the most. And like the question you have to ask is where are Wexford gonna bring the players from? Like you'd imagine a couple will come in. I have heard of one who potentially is going to come in, but like where are they going to get the players from? Like they don't have that sort of pulling power as the likes of Shells or even Rovers with a financial. Are they going to try and pull players from the likes of Cork? I don't think they're going to get many from the likes of Treaty anymore. I think them days of Treaty players just walking out to go to Wexford are sort of gone.
Yeah, 100%. In terms of Wexford going forward, they're losing this crop of young players, but they've also got a few players who are maybe in their last or second last season in the jersey. We said goodbye to Del Kennedy at the start of the year. Kylie Murphy's probably on that list. Rihanna Jarrett might even be in that consideration, although I'd probably say she's a year or two. She's still only maybe 32. And Nicholas Sinnott is in her late.
I don't think Rihanna Jarrett's 30 yet. Rihanna Jarrett's just coming.
She was on that under 17 team in 2010, so she'd be
1. I think she was a little bit younger on that squad. Like if you look at the question you have to ask about Rihanna is, can the body hold more than anything, because she struggled with injury the last couple of years. Kylie Murphy's not played an awful lot this year as well. So you'd have to ask, is that crop of players, how much, as you say, have they got left? The Nicholas Sinnott is the one still gonna be there if the body's not gonna let it. Then they're going to become over-reliant. Well, they already are over-reliant on the likes of Ellen Malloy. And the question is when is somebody going to come along, give Ellen an offer that Ellen's going to say, I can't turn down? And because there's no doubt that's potentially going to happen at some stage. And Ellen could look to move on, like even if it's not to another Irish club, to a club even in England or in Scotland. But that's the sort of thing that you'd expect. And like you'd fear about the next generation of Wexford players, of what's to come, because if they go into a state of transition, it could be a long way back.
Let's talk Peamount for a minute. They beat Sligo 2-0 at the weekend. Promising shoots from Sligo's point of view. They were in the game, only 1-0 down until 5 or 6 minutes from the end. But it's one that nobody really expected them to win. But it's not, I don't know. It's hard to call, but Sligo
Peamount haven't been firing great lately. They've been extremely hit and miss. So it's hard to say. The fact we didn't get to see the game either with LOI TV issues, frustrating again. I remember chatting to the guys in Telka Park, and like I know some clubs have the actual LOI camera that do the men's games as well. I just don't know if it's a thing of no facilities to do it, use that sort of thing at Peamount, because that's what it seems. It seems like, because the camera is just attached to a floodlight. But like the sort of things like that, I thought them days of LOI TV not working were gone. From the Peamount viewpoint, it's probably just a bounce back result against to bounce back off the loss to Shamrock Rovers, and you'd have to wonder from Peamount is what are they going to show us in the second half of the season. There's no doubt there's been a bit of interest in the likes of Erin McLaughlin from abroad. Will she stay? Sive Doyle's missed a lot of football. You can see how much they rely on them sort of players in their squad, and it hasn't been the season that James O'Callaghan would have really wanted from a Sligo viewpoint. It's just a really difficult season for Tommy Hewitt. It's going to take time, and I said to you on the show a couple of weeks ago, I think that the rebuilding job in Sligo is probably a lot bigger than we probably thought it was at the start of the year. And like you can see what Casey Howe's doing in a really, really good squad, and like losing that sort of player was massive to them. And I think Sligo will struggle in the second half of the season, but I if there's someone who can get them organised, I think Tommy Hewitt can. Can't see them winning many games. They can probably pick up some sort of draws and be competitive in the games and the teams around them for sure.
Yeah, here's hoping they pick up a few results before the end of the year. Final game from last weekend, probably the biggest game of the weekend, to be fair. Athlone Town visited Tala. A good, solid win for them. Casey Howe with an opener, clawed back by Anya O'Gorman, and then a little bit of a howler at the back from Shamrock Rovers and Isabel Ryan. Yeah, Isabel Ryan found the back of the net with a relatively straightforward tap in just over the defender into the back of the net. But I don't think the Shamrock Rovers defence or goalkeeper would be particularly happy with how both goals were conceded.
I think it was a lovely ball in from Isabel Ryan for the first goal, but Casey Howe scoring at the front post. Casey's just in great form. She scored the goal against the volley against Shells the week previous. You can see why she's been Tanya Oxby's called her back into that Northern Ireland squad again. She's been consistent in that squad. She fully deserves that place. Kieran Kilduff is starting to getting the best out of her, and she's getting better and better week by week. And I'll talk about the Shamrock Rovers goal in a minute, but the second goal for Athlone, the ball from Maddie Gibson, that wet surface, Amanda Puddin just gets caught absolutely nowhere, and once it bounces, she's gone. She's out of the game completely. And Isabel Ryan is like, thank you very much. I will slot that home and for the winner. But for me, I also thought the goal from Anya O'Gorman was poor defending from Athlone as well. Like that ball has to be cut out. That ball has to be cut out, and they had opportunity to stop that earlier. And Anya's not going to miss from there. Even though she's probably not got the yard of pace anymore, she's still going to finish them sort of goals. And I think from a Rovers viewpoint, they'll be disappointed, but it's one of them games that they probably could have been beaten by a couple of more goals.
Yeah, it's I suppose one of those games. I watched most of it, and it impressed with that loan. Really, really impressed with that loan, particularly Isabel Ryan. I know she made a couple of appearances in the tail end of last season and looked good, but she's really starting to grow into that. She's only a kid. She's only still probably in school, 16, 17. So interesting how she develops over the course of the next few weeks.
The weather. Athlone still tried to play.
Yeah.
Even when the weather was very bad. And I think that's probably a bit of a testament to Kieran Kilduff's side. Like, even against Shells, the pitch was very firm the week before in the All-Ireland. They still tried to play football. Like, and you could see he's not afraid to give players an opportunity in these sort of big games.
You took the words out of her mouth, because Isabel Ryan got the nod ahead of Roisin Malloy wide on the right for Athlone, and Roisin has been probably their standout performer, one of the top 2 or 3 performers in that team for 3 or 4 years. So to make that call, now maybe there was an injury, I'm not quite sure, but to make that call and have faith in a player to go and do that, and then for her to deliver an assist and a goal in that manner. Now, Roisin had come on and played an impact as well later on in the game, but it was just interesting to see that call being made. You don't tend to see it in the big games from coaches, so fair play to Kilduff on that.
Yeah, and like even I thought Owen Wirren the previous week for Shelbourne against Athlone in the All-Ireland Cup made 6 changes. And what he said to me before the game is, I need to find a balance, because I need to give some players game time as well, and I need to keep my squad happy, because players deserve the opportunity. And I think, like, we would have seen in previous years, certain managers would have been like, you know what, I have my starting 11, that's it. But the thing is, if Athlone are to win this league, if Shelbourne are to win this league, it's not going to be 11 players that are going to win you this league. It's 16, 17 players that are going to get you over the line. And like, to be on a 7-win streak in the league in a row, like, that's impressive from Athlone. Like, that's massive. And like, you consider that, like, in their first 3 games, they went 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw. They lost the opening day of the season to Galway at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look at that league table. Oops, wrong button. We'll take a look at that league table and we'll just see how the table looks as it stands at the moment. It is, of course, Athlone who lead top of the table from Shells, just 1 point ahead, both on the same number of games played. And that's kind of one of the anomalies of this particular structure, is that sometimes teams have played more than their allocated games. Shells, 24 points. Bit of a gap back to Galway, albeit with a game in hand against Treaty. 5 points.
That's not till September. I don't think that Treaty game.
So they will have that game in hand for the next couple of months. Peamount on 18 points, Wexford back on 16, and then another big gap back to Shamrock Rovers and Cork. I don't think we would have thought, we'd been saying that a couple of months ago at the start of the season, that they'd be mid-table level on points halfway through the year. Bows and Treaty with DLR a further point behind, and then of course Sligo Rovers picking up at the bottom of the table at the moment. They'll be looking to get a result or two. They need to get some result, and quickly, just to close that gap with DLR and to not completely get dropped.
Yeah, that's your fear, because like, you look at their next couple of games. Granted, they've got Shells, but the game after that against Bows, that's the sort of game that Tommy Hewitt really should be targeting if he can get something out of that, because Bows haven't been going great. But like, every game in this league is difficult these days. There's no easy game, and like, from Athlone viewpoint, I think Athlone just need to be competitive. The one thing, and Athlone for Sligo, they just need to be competitive. The one thing I do want this season from Sligo more than anything, I don't want any team finishing winless. That's my one thing. I don't want to see any team finishing winless. I don't think it's a good look for the league. I don't think it's probably a fair assessment on some of the performances that Athlone have had. Like, Sligo have had. Realistic, they could have nicked something against Shells in the opening day. It could have nicked 3 points against Shells in the opening day of the season. Then 1 or 2 chances, but like, they've drawn 3 games. Breifne, they've drawn 3 of their 10 games. But it's just, they need to get that first W. And I think if they get that first W, it'll give them a lot of confidence.
Let's talk internationals. Of course, it is jam-packed full of games in the next couple of weeks. We have the 2 senior international teams. Let's start there before we get on to the U19 Championships. The squad, of course, announced for that doubleheader against England and Carrow Road next Friday. And then the following week, they face a trip down to Páirc Uí Chaoimh down in Cork. Is it Super Value Páirc Uí Chaoimh? Is that the official title?
I think that's what it's called now, isn't it?
Let's take a look at the squad there, picked for the game next week. Some interesting choices. Marissa Shiva back in. I know we've been singing her praises for a while. Delighted to see her get a chance back in the team. I suppose the big name from a League of Ireland point of view is Julianne Russell. She joins Eva Mangan as a member of that squad. Disappointment maybe that we don't see Erin McLaughlin, or?
Yeah, you probably would have thought McLaughlin would have retained her place, but when you're going Julianne Russell, you start thinking Erin isn't going to get in there. I think the one that a lot of people are asking questions, especially on social media, is around Lucy Quinn not being selected. There was no mention in the press release surrounding of Lucy being injured. There was talk that Kira Caruso, they said had picked up an injury and wasn't available. And other than that, like the other players who have been left out, we knew they would have been out. We knew the likes of Jamie Finn, Chloe Mustaki, Tara O'Hanlon, Heather Payne missed the last camp due to an injury as well. So we were expecting her to be out. The other thing to note for Ireland fans as well is Katie McCabe is suspended for the England game. Eileen Gleeson did confirm today that Denise O'Sullivan will captain the side in Carrow Road next week. So Denise will be take the armband. It'll be interesting to see who fills in for Katie. But it's probably a squad that you would have expected. Julianne Russell maybe being the only one that we wouldn't have expected if we were naming that sort of squad. But listen, Julianne's like that. Julianne is exactly like Lindsay McKee. Like a fine wine, just getting better and better. And like Julianne's been very good. I know Eileen Gleeson did watch the first half of Shelbourne versus Galway recently. She watched Athlone and she watched the All Ireland Cup game. That's what she done. So I would have expected she was there to see someone in them. But listen, happy for Julianne Russell. She's been one of them players that's been around quite a while. Disappointed for Erin. Not really surprised with the rest of the squad.
Like
the only concern,
we've had Julianne on a few times, and I suppose I like Julianne. I've known her 2 decades. She's a phenomenal player, deserves every credit she's getting, and she has been probably the standout player on a return to the league this year after giving birth, which in itself is a huge achievement. But from an Ireland point of view, is it a good idea to be bringing in a player at that stage of their career into that level when maybe there are players like Erin who could probably benefit more from that?
Probably not. And it goes back to what Ciara McCormack said earlier about players having an opportunity to get in front of the national team manager when they have an opportunity to potentially go abroad. This sort of thing, we're both big Julianne Russell fans, but this is the sort of thing that maybe won't encourage a player to stay at home because they don't think that opportunity is going to be there for them. Like, I was as surprised as you were when I seen the squad was announced that she was in the squad. It'll be interesting to see how the dynamic is next week. Obviously, having a young baby as well, what way they work that sort of stuff. But I think, listen, I'm delighted for Julianne on a personal note because of making the comeback. But from what you say, I 100% agree. The one thing I would have liked to see this week, even would have been if she'd have named a couple of extra players in and just said, okay, these players are going to come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, train with us before we fly to England, and potentially on Wednesday evening or Thursday, and spend a couple of days with the camp and learn a little bit about the environment and stuff like that. Oh, I know Vera has done that a couple of times, and even to go back to the home base sessions, I don't think they're non-existent anymore since Vera has left. So the home base players, is there really a major opportunity in bar maybe 1 or 2 places in most squads? Probably not at this stage.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. In terms of the under-19s, well, actually, before we leave the seniors, your thoughts on the games? Of course, we can't catch England, so we're definitely guaranteed 4th place out of 4 in the group. Do you put out your strongest team and try and keep the score down, or
you have to? You have no choice because of the fact of the way the playoff permutations work. If I think it's Poland or Czech Republic, if one of them get a point, we're in a position that we need to get a point not to be the worst 4th place team. So it's all guns blazing. There's no sentiment, nothing like that. And that's why I said to you a couple of weeks ago that the idea of make Denise O'Sullivan captain because they're playing in Cork is absolutely rubbish. You know, if you go with your best squad, best team, if your captain is available, your captain plays, and you don't just change things like that or go with novelty things like that, because it could come down to on the night that result could be important for Ireland. So I don't think you see many changes. I think she goes best available squad that she has to her, and tries to see if she can nick something out of these games. Like the interesting thing about the games is that England needs something out of the game with us. France could need something out of the game with us. Just as I see Billy Cleary tweeting us on Twitter saying that Julianne Russell has been one of the standout players this season. 100%. She's been nominated for
100%.
She's been nominated for player of the month. To me, she's probably in the top 5 shortlist at the minute for player of the year in terms of the actual overall. So there's no doubt about it that I think she's a top player, and it'll be interesting to see how she gets on. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see her make the matchday squad and potentially be an option off the bench. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no. Stranger things have happened, but it does bring the Galway contingent in that particular squad up to 3, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, Niamh Fahey is in there as well. Oh, no, Heather Payne is not there, so that doesn't quite count. So we're back to 2. Oh, well, we tried. In terms of the under-19s, of course, they have the European Championships coming up this month. Some big games. And a big squad as well in terms of some of the names, very recognizable to anyone who follows the league on a regular basis. Let's just bring the squad up there and let's have a quick look at it. Some interesting names in there, like Katie Keane, Jane Murren. They're both regulars in the league this year. But working down through there, I think if I'm not mistaken, every single one of them is based in the League of Ireland.
No,
did I miss somebody?
There's I know Turner is definitely not, but
Sophie Moran.
Sophie Moran, I think Aoife Turner may not be based. I think there was 2 of them that weren't based in the league.
But that's a huge statement of how successful the underage leagues have been in this country, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you look at some of these players, Hazel Donegan started against Shelbourne in the All Ireland Cup. Kayla Bergen has been very good for Wexford. Leo Leary's been very good for Shamrock Rovers. Ellen Doolan. Joy Ralph scoring a couple of goals. The Lockeries, there's some very, 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 very good players there. Hannah Healy obviously missed the last couple of weeks with Shelbourne with a hand issue that she picked up in the Galway game, but smashing young player. The only thing I will say, and I'm going to damper down expectations a little bit on this group, is the absolute group of death. Like, what more, when you look at the group, Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands. But you know what? They've picked up some good results this year. They're going to go into these games with no fear. They're going to go in there, and it's an opportunity to go and press. It's an opportunity to go and see how good they are. And I'm excited for them. And you wish Dave Connell on the squad the very best of luck, because there's no doubt when you seen the provisional squad that was announced a couple of weeks ago for a training camp that there was places on the line, and he probably had a bit of a torturous couple of days picking that squad, because there's some players who would have been left out that would have thought they might have made it, and it is a testament to the league.
Yeah, no, really, really exciting times ahead for this group of players. And I think realistically, as you say, it's a group of death. Can they get out of it? Can they get to a semi-final, quarter-final?
Semi-final, go straight to the semi-finals. There's only 8 teams in the competition. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult. I think it's all going to start off by how they get on their first game. But then again, you've mentioned the squad earlier, the 2010 under-17s. Nobody expected them to beat the Germans. Nobody's expected Irish women's teams to do things before. They probably weren't expected to beat Austria and qualify either. So, listen, they'll go out there to Lithuania. They'll give it their all, and if they could come back with one win, I think that'd be a successful tournament.
Well, here's hoping they come back with a little bit more than that. It would be lovely to see them maybe sneak into a semi-final, and after that, you never know what can quite happen in these knockout competitions. In terms of the fixtures this weekend, of course, very quickly run through them. We're going to try and get out before the hour. We've got a minute. Fixtures: Shells and Wexford, big game in Talcott Park. Bows host Galway at 3 p.m. in Dalymount. DLR and Athlone at 3 p.m. in the Bowl, and I think it's Peamount versus Cork City at 5 p.m. in PRL Park, while Treaty host Shamrock Rovers down in the Markets Field at also 5 o'clock kickoff. Your thoughts on these? Which game will you be going to, or will you be watching?
I'm not sure if I'll be going to a game just yet. If I do, I potentially will go to Shells Wexford, but I think Shells will win again. Athlone will win. I think Treaty could get a point out of Shamrock Rovers again. They've drawn with them twice this season already, and I think Galway will return to league winning ways, and Peamount will win as well. I think it'll be a few comfortable victories this week, and there'll be 1 or 2 tight games.
Yeah, anyway, wherever you are, get out to a game or get to watch it on LOITV.ie. Of course, all the games there. Most weeks we had a bit of a hiccup in PRL Park last week. Hopefully that is resolved for the visit of Cork City this weekend. But for most this week, Aaron, unless you have something else to say, Alex, chat might be actually in a different country. We'll be in England next week for the game against England. Your thoughts on how that's going to go? Last word, in a word: win, lose, draw.
Lose and difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough couple of weeks ahead for the Irish girls. Aaron, thanks very much for joining me, and also to Ciara McCormack, who very graciously gave us up half an hour of her time to chat to us about all things Treaty United. We will be back with you again next week to talk all things League of Ireland. Chat to you then.